Good evening, Internet. Welcome back to another episode of Coach's Corner. My name is Brennan. I am currently the King of the East, and I'm excited to bring y'all a show where we're going to run through the heroic champions battle from Pennsic 50. This is a series of armored and rapier bouts, 30 in total, uh, from uh, from the east versus the middle and allies on both sides. I am lucky enough this evening to be joined by some fantastic guests. We have Masters Lisabetta and Thomas, who are the Mid Realm and East, uh, Mid Realm and East Rapier captains, and Duke Valhric and Sir Arn, the Mid Realm and East Armored champions, as well as Coach's Corner Zone Duke Sean, and we'll be seeing his bout later in the show. So, thank you everyone for joining us. Welcome, and appreciate you sharing your Wednesday night and your insights with us. All right. So diving right in, I'm gonna pose this question first to Thomas and Lisabetta. Can you walk us through how you put together the team for the Rapier Heroic Champions at Pennsic? How do you pick the 15 folks that are going to represent uh, the kingdoms, and also how do you decide what allies are going to be out there without the opportunity to watch them all winter long? Thomas, I'll kick it to you first.
Groovy. Uh, so thankfully in the East, we pretty much always have a Kings and Queens Rapier champion, decided from a tournament that's already been held. So those first two slots, those are always going to be guaranteed to the champions of the crown, which is honestly kind of nice because it's a set thing that you know is going to happen. Um, After that, I start looking at people who sort of um, are answers to interesting questions. And I start trying to build a team of people who have different skill sets, some of which overlap, some of which don't. And I just look for the people who are putting the effort in, want to be there, and are also just able to fill a niche if we need it. You know, most rapier fighters talk about rock paper scissors when it comes to like somebody who fights case of swords, somebody who fights long sword, somebody who only fights single, somebody who does sword and dagger really well, or buckler. Like all of these things sort of have their rock paper scissors matchup. So having somebody who is good at one of those forms in your pocket, I feel like is very clutch, personally. So I look at it from kind of like trying to build the best deck of cards you can in a poker game.
Great, thank you. Elizabeth, how does that overlap or differentiate from how y'all approach it?
So no, I don't think that it differs very much from how we approach it. We're also looking for diversity of skills and the enthusiasm that the person brings to the fight. So one of the things that differs is that the mid realm so far hasn't done the tournament style that Thomas has done, and so all of the people that are on this team have specifically applied and showed interest to being champions. And I have the opportunity to watch them throughout the season to see how they're doing and to find that diversity of skill. I also look for a little bit of diversity in titles so that we have a few up and comers on the list to bring them up and start coaching the next generation into the champions fights.
Great. Valharic, when you're thinking about putting together the armored team, how do you approach that?
So I have a pretty good idea of what the tournament season in the mid realm looked like, and who my peak performers are, and that doesn't vary very much. And if you look at past years, you can kind of see that. As far as allies go, since I never really know exactly what I'm going to get until Beer and Brats. Usually at Beer and Brats, I approach each of the allied kings and I tell them, some years I tell them, hey, I need 5 guys. And some years I say, hey, I have a slot for you. Send me an unbelt and a belt, and I promise one will fight. Um, we talk, and sometimes I disagree with the crowns and ask for someone different, and sometimes they give me what I want, and sometimes they don't. Uh, but that's how I have my farm, and then I start thinking about what I'm going to likely see from the east and what other allies are around, and start to make matches for that. I always make sure that I have one weirdo, and I always make sure that I have one pole weapon that I can rely on. Other than that, I I really want people to bring their best and fight their best, and that's kind of how I do it.
So what classifies as a weirdo to you?
Well, I'm usually a weirdo, um,
Okay.
an unorthodox style, uh, maybe maybe some weird speed, different shield shape,
Okay.
um, you know, experience. That's kind of what I think of as a weirdo.
Great. Thank you. Arn, anything really different from your darkened seat there?
I want to apologize for coming to you from my vehicle, everyone, but thank you for all being here. Um, a couple things, actually. So, like everyone just touched on, from the inner kingdom standpoint, I've been pretty vocal in years past about looking for the folks who are really just from a merit standpoint, the ones who are always in the semis, always in the finals, etc. But this year with the East, it wasn't it wasn't that I wasn't just looking for that. I was also looking for folks who really wanted, showed the initiative, traveled, went to every tournament, and despite how they did, I still wanted to give them a chance to shine. So there was that aspect of it. From a overall throughout the year, right? I'm always looking at Candlemas videos, Grand Tournament of the Dragon videos. I'm making sure I know who's finaling in crowns across the known world, who's winning crowns across the known world. It was Pennsic 50, so I had in my brain that there was a good chance that there'd be a good load of princes that wanted to be on the stage, and that seemed to be the case. And keeping keeping with folks who I know have performed well in the crunch is always going to be important, but also making sure that I reach out to not just crowns, but the kingdom warlords really as ahead of time as I can to say, hey, I'm looking for some representation from so and so kingdom. I'd love to know who you think you could give me for a belt or an unbelt. And so I always try to not leave as much as I can for game day or beer and brats, etc. Meeting of the kings, if you want to call it that, or the crown, excuse me. I like to have as much of the roster set, introductions made, and all the pleasantries taken care of by the time I make it to site is how I generally like to operate.
Great.
Hey, Brennan, I wanted to throw out a question here.
Yeah.
So for all these guys, just to give people an understanding of how much planning goes into this sort of thing, because I mean, the Heroic Champions is something that happens every year at Pennsic. I'm a big fan of the format itself. I think it's important for people to be able to see their heroes fight other heroes. I mean, it's a great display, but a lot goes into this, and this is not really a day of adventure. At what point did each of you know that you were going to be coordinating for your kingdom? So, Lisabetta, I guess we'll start with you.
Sure. So I believe it was after the heirs were chosen at Fall Crown Tournament, because we, um, right now, there isn't the consistency that the East has in this particular position. So it's deciding if the fencing community in the general and everybody who's interested is still aligned for me to be doing it. But I knew at that point in time, so it gave me the opportunity when the season started back up in full force in January to start watching folks and getting people's interest.
Yeah, so right away, like immediately, you knew. Yeah.
Yeah,
Valhric?
before we go on, I'll just note that these are the same 4 captains we had on this show a year ago, so we do have some consistency in it. But
Yeah, so
folks-
basically, it's day of. I mean, as soon as that crown wins crown, you know.
Pretty closely thereafter. I don't jump them on Crown Day, but
Yeah.
With me, I'm sorry. Is Thomas
Go
going?
ahead. Go ahead, Arn.
With me, it was when Count Ryu was named Warlord, is when that it became official that I'd be going back into the role. It was I basically assumed that I'd likely have some kind of position or at least some consultation. But so I just pretended like I was going to have the job until I officially did. is what happened. So that way I wasn't unprepared.
Nice. Thomas?
So I haven't always built the team, but I have been involved in the pairings for Rapier Heroics since I think 2012 now. So I just kind of have always been going on the assumption that I'm going to be involved in it somewhere somehow. I'm actually kind of hoping that this is going to be my last time in the hot seat with that, and I'm wanting to pass it on to my deputy, who did a fabulous job. And hopefully you'll see her here next year. But yeah, no, like when Ryu was named Warlord, he had me on last year in this role and expressed the interest to do it again pretty much immediately. And that's how we've been operating.
Right. Well,
I think I knew 3 years ago. Yeah, when I took the role on, usually, I absolutely confirm with the new crown that they want me to continue with the duty. But this is actually was my last year as the commander. I have an excellent protege who will be running the team next year, and it's been awesome to do. But I think it's time for someone else to do it.
yeah, you've been doing this for a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, I just wanted to give people an understanding of the kind of planning that goes into this sort of thing. So like I said, it's really neat to see people get matched up on the day of, but there's so much that goes into this that people are just not aware of.
So speaking of day of matchups, one thing that I always find really interesting in the subtle difference is that the Rapier folks meet ahead of time and make pairings, and the 2 armored captains are figuring it out live. It's to me the sports analogy is, sometimes you have to send in a pinch hitter to deal with a particular pitcher. So for armored, what we end up seeing is a question and answer. So there's a little bit of delay. Side A will send out a fighter, and then you can watch as the conversations happen real quick to figure out how the other side's going to respond to that. And that response is where I think this battle is won and lost on the armored side, is picking the right person to respond. On the Rapier side, how are you doing it? I know you pair ahead of time, but is it that sort of call and response thing, or is it you both play a card at the same time? How does that work?
We actually do the exact same call and response. We just do it in the shade the day beforehand with drinks in hand. We're still doing the same, this side is bringing forth this person, and then the other side will kind of confer with their people and shuffle through their list and start looking at, who they've got for that. And we go back and forth the same way. But because I do like that aspect of the game of it, right? Like, I jokingly call it playing Pokemon, but like, there is a lot that goes into that. Even day of or day before, whether you do it at any given time, there's always really good matchups that come from the surprise of like, okay, we're giving this name, and then it's like, and now who are they going to pull out of the hat to deal with it? Like, that part, I love that back and forth. And I love some of the magic Pennsic moments that has created for me personally over the years.
I agree.
And for me, I was disappointed this year because I wasn't able to participate in the pairings. Unfortunately, I had some health concerns that made it so that Pennsic was a poor idea for me. So I put my deputies, Masters Colin and Darius, in charge of meeting with Thomas and his deputy to do the pairings this year. And I tried to give them as much advice in advance as to what I was looking at with the team members, what fights that the particular individuals thought that they would be successful at, so we could make quality pairings with the information we had available.
Great. And then, what do y'all do if day of somebody steps in a hole, twists an ankle, and can't fire off for the battle? I've certainly watched Arn's response, but I'll let him lead off.
So, a couple things. At that point, let's say it's a situation where you're hypothetically at one's desk the Thursday before you leave for war, and you get a text message saying that one of your guys, a guy that you rely on often, is no longer going to be able to participate due to injury from the pickup field. What you do
hypothetically,
at that point,
yes,
a nice hypothetical situation there.
Completely hypothetical. So at that point, even we have a whole group of people that are either already named from a rattan standpoint, already named to the champion's melee, a lot of whom can also run just fine on a singles fight. And that's when I start coordinating with the Warlord and the other Champions Day commanders to see what they can switch around and who I can then draw from off of the melee. Because for those of you who don't know, a very standard rule for the past 3 years, I would say, has been that one cannot participate on the rattan melee and also be a rattan heroic champion. So it's important that we have some leeway for folks who are on the melee for this exact thing that happened, and we were able to find a totally suitable and wonderful substitution for the person I lost. Last year, I had a bit more immediate game day on the field health issues with some folks that had to drop off literally hours before, and I was able to then go to our respective allied crowns and ask for help. Having and maintaining a good rapport throughout the year and good contact throughout the year as we build allies is always important for those emergencies.
I think last year we didn't settle on who was fighting until about halfway through the battle.
It was rough, yeah. There was that. There was a lot of that, but it got done, and the crowns that wanted the representation got it, and things had to be shuffled around, but we had a heroics.
Awesome. Anybody else have any thoughts on that before we dive into fights?
I just got one quick question as far as let's just kind of cover the overall structure of what the teams are, because I know you had X number of East and or Middle fighters, but you also had X number of allies. What was the structure on that, and how did you, Brennan as Crown, How did you guys choose which of your allies was going to be putting forth fighters?
So there were 15 armored fights and 15 rapier fights, and
They're
I'm
more
sorry.
than that. Yep.
Sorry, you're right. 15 and 20. You're correct. And we agreed over the course of negotiations over several months on those numbers, and we agreed for armored that we would field. I don't have the document in front of me, but my recollection is at least one unbelt. And after that, it turns into negotiating with the other allied crowns. So
Yep.
one of the things that you talk about as you over the course of the winter say, hey, I'd really like hey Ethelmark, I'd really like y'all to fight with us this year. One of the things you're talking about is how many slots they are looking for in this, and they say, I'd like all 15, and you said a lot of number under that. Of course, their majesties were not so greedy as to say I'd like all 15, but they say 3, I say 1, we meet in the middle at 2, that kind of deal. And you do that with crown after crown after crown. And sometimes you go and say, hey, your majesties, I'd really like Duke Sean to come fight in this battle. And sometimes you say, I have a belted slot for you, if that's amenable. So it works out a variety of ways. Cool. Any other thoughts before we dive into watching the actual fights? All right, let's go to it. So this is we have, I think, 3 rapier bouts to start. And let's fire it up. This is my champion, Millicent Rowan, in black. Lisabetta, can you remind me who's in red here?
And this is Duchess Katrin.
Great.
Bron, I apologize for the full name. Duchess Katrin Bronwyn Gloucester.
Yep.
All right. Anything that we should be thinking of in this pairing as we're watching it?
This was King's Champ versus King's Champ.
Awesome.
Nice.
All right. And so my recollection is Rowan brought out sword and dagger. Is that true on both sides?
Yes.
Looks that way. Yeah.
Yes.
Feel free to chime in with any thoughts you have on the bout. This is a lot of controlling position and range, with Rowan taking the aggressive posture and movement.
Yep. Rowan still fights a very Onstioran style.
All right. Can we pause that a sec? You were saying about Rowan.
Very low guards, dagger and sword forward. It's a very sort of, a lot of us call it a traditional Onstioran style of guard and aggression, and she does it real well.
So, and I don't really see it so much of as aggressive, but it's definitely assertive, and it looked to me like Rowan was she was pursuing the fight. She was pretty much in control of that from the beginning, and it was just posture and, like Bren said, positioning. It was there. She was bringing a presence to that fight that I think was missing on the other side.
I completely agree with that. I think that she controlled the field, that she stepped out there and it was hers, and it was just a matter of finding the right opportunity to take it.
Yeah, assertive is certainly better language than what I picked. Thank you, Sean. Great. Any other notes on this before we are on to the next?
In addition, Katrin has been studying with Sir Logos and Master Terrence, so that she is working more towards historical participation rather than specifically going out there to win.
Great. Cool. Sivrid, can we move on to the next bout? This
So this one was
is
Queen's Champs versus Queen's Champs. Our
very
side
cool.
in the east is Don Gerhardt. He's in the black with the yellow hood.
And ours is Christoph Koldbun.
And this looks to be another Sword and Dagger versus Sword and Dagger.
Correct.
Yep.
All right.
So Christoph was actually a surprise to me for champions because he is somebody who hasn't come up on our champions list before. So it was exciting to have one of the appointed positions as a new person to the champions fights.
And how does the mid determine Her Majesty's champion?
It's variable. So the mid sometimes does tournaments, which is what happened this year, and the kings and queens were appointed out of the results of that tournament. But usually it's more of an appointment on both the kings and queens side. We don't have the culture of kings and queens champions, so it's whatever relationship works best for the crown at the time.
Okay. On the east side, I'll just mention this real quickly, Sean. Sorry.
No, that's fine.
We have a tournament to select the champions. The winner of that Rapier Champions tournament is the King's Champion, and then the Queen chooses from there, and they serve for a year. So whoever. So in this case, our predecessor selected Gerhardt, and he remained Queen's Champion when we stepped up. Sorry, Sean, what were you going to say?
No, the thing I was going to say about that is one of the things I like about this particular fight is that both of these fighters are kind of contesting that center space. Mm-hmm. That there's a lot of positioning, a lot of posturing that's going on right there that a lot of people can't see when there's nothing happening. But there's a lot of fight happening right there, and I think both of these guys are contesting that center space. And you can see Gerhardt at some point kind of came back out and started testing that a little bit more when he couldn't kind of impose his will, if you will. So he kind of stepped back and he started testing it from different angles. But I really like the way that both of them were kind of contesting that center space.
Cool. Any other thoughts before we move on to bout number 3? Great. I think next up we have His Majesty Timur from Artemisia fighting on for the East team. And who is this on the mid-realm side?
I believe it is Jacques Gons. Does that
From
sound right?
Atlantia. Yeah, JG.
From Atlantia.
I don't know if you can see it in the fight, but Timur fights with a curved saber.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the saber and dagger. I think this one ended up with a double kill before they did it again.
I believe you're accurate on that. I think it did have a double kill throughout it.
Yeah, I like the watching Timur's fights, and this is true of both his armored and his rapier fights. There's a lot of probing that happens before you get into trying to kill the person. It's set them up with that pressure and see what they're going to do to respond, and now you have a blueprint for
and that right there where he takes that step back there, he's like, "No, I don't like that bullshit."
Yeah.
Like he gets in there, sees something, like doesn't like the way they're setting up, and he's like, "Yeah, we're just not gonna deal with that."
And I do like the abilities that he can bring to the field with the saber that are different than what the positioning that we usually see with the rapiers.
Yeah, a lot of people don't understand how much the saber changes the fight. I mean, a weapon is a weapon is a weapon, but there's just something about that curve that is just different for a lot of people because it just, I mean, your parry and your thrust are just, they're not following a straight line like they do with regular foil.
Yeah, no, people who have their parries and their guards, dialed in to like an eighth of an inch or so, I know from personal experience, can get very frustrated if you're using a curved or a sabered blade when all you have to do is rotate your wrist 90 degrees to then all of a sudden get an angle that comes in all the way around the guard.
I played with the curve for a little bit. I was not nearly this successful.
I still have mine. I should bring it out more, but I definitely remember when Don Wyatt in our kingdom reminded me that it would be nice if I ever fought with something normal for once.
So there was our double, I think.
Yeah,
and now we're gonna reset and do it again.
So yes, and you had brought up how we determine the allies and their positions on our place. We had 2 from Atlantia this year, and we actually had a surprise champion from Meridies that there was some poor communication as to who our allies were and had to do some shuffling that Thomas and everyone else was easily able to accomplish. And the way that we are appointing the champions for alternates, or apologies, for allies is to offer them, we have this slot for you on the melee team, we have this number of slots for you on the heroic champions team, and can you please provide some names that would be appropriate for those positions?
All right, so we have a double leg,
Yep.
and now they are setting measure. So
And I think
that,
they're about to have the marshals do a count off.
Yep. All right, so I was sitting on the other side of that, and so the thing that you can't see from that side is the blade that Jock threw on Timur ended up going up the back of his arm, where Timur was able to get a body shot on that. That blade ended up going up in the back of the arm, and I think Jock, there was some question there because I don't think Jock couldn't quite figure out what had happened.
Can we pause this, Sivrid?
Yep.
All right. Any other? Since you mentioned the camera angle, now is a heck of a time to shout out Sir Barry of Anglesey for all of our videos tonight. We'll be primarily using his work, which he has graciously spent a bunch of time editing down to cut out the introductions and whatnot and make a streamlined show for us, because he's a heck of a gent. Now we have some hooligan against His Grace Dog, and by hooligan, of course, I mean our very own Duke Sean in blue with his back to the camera, and Dog is currently hiding on the other side of you.
So I'd like to throw out one other thing about this format in general. It is, as I mentioned, it's important for people to be able to see their heroes fight other heroes. But I've been very fortunate to have been selected for this format a few times, and first off, I have to say it is always an honor to be asked. To be able to fight Dag in the first fight was a great honor. I mean, I've fought Dag a lot over the years, so we definitely know each other. But when you're going into a format like this, the thing I told Arn was, I'm not going to promise you that I'm going to get a win, but I'm going to promise you a clean fight, and I'm going to promise you a fight that people are going to enjoy watching, because that's really what this whole format should be. And I talked to Dag after our fight as well, and he's very much the same mindset. Like, this is a display format for sure. and we have an obligation to show people the very best of our sport, and that's not just the best fighting. It's the best conduct. It's providing a show that like you see all those people in the background that are sitting watching that don't fight at all, and that's what this is all about. And so being able to provide that, I think in this particular fight, even though it was kind of short, I think me and Dag both set the tone for the list in this, and it was an honor to be part of.
Well said, you Chris.
So thinking about this fight, Valhric, Arn, do you recall who is the question, who is the answer here?
Sure.
Yeah, I won the coin toss, and this was my send.
Okay.
Yes. And when Duke Valhric put out Dog, I thought of no one better but the most appropriate and legendary match that we could make at that point in time was this. And I recall Val smiling and agreeing. So I think that this was a right and good and just combat for sure.
Yeah, it was excellent, and I had no doubt that this would set the right tone for the rest of the tournament. It was awesome to be able to pick this fight and see Arn match the same spirit that I sent my fighter with. It was a great start.
And then Sean, a quick question for you. I am accustomed to seeing you with a very different shield than this.
Right.
What gives, my friend?
So I've been fighting with a sword and buckler for about a year and a half now, and you know, I knew I wanted to bring that to. I mean, that's all I brought to Pennsic. I didn't bring my heater.
Okay.
One of the things that I've been saying about working with this, I've been having a lot of fun with it. I've been learning a lot with it, but for me, it was if this is going to work, it has to work against Dag and Branos and Ronvalder, like. If it's because it's going to work against everybody else, but it has to work against the absolute top fighters of our sport. And I was actually going to use Timur's center grip that he won crown with, but I used that for one fight, and my thumb just blew up. So yeah, I just went back to the buckler, and again, it's like I'm not here for a win. I'm here to put up a good fight. And I'm going to put up a good fight with whatever weapon system I happen to have. This is something I happen to have been working with for some time. So this is new to me, but this is what I'm doing right now.
Great. All right.
And it's a 19-inch cold steel plastic buckler.
Cool. Let's roll the fight. And Dog is almost always a two-sword fighter, correct?
This is the first time I fought him, Florentine. Every time I fought him before, it was sword and shield, including on Tuesday at Peace Week. I fought him there.
Okay. I'm used to seeing him in this setup, so I stand corrected.
And I know he's won most of his crowns, Florentine, but fights sword and board as well. And this is the first time I've actually faced him, Florentine. So.
Great. Any final thoughts on that exchange? Looks like it was just a bad trade.
Yeah, he from my perspective, his body language told me the whole time that he was going with that left hand. And eventually I got a target lock. And as soon as he dropped that hand down for the wrap, I threw that wrap, and it was a wrap to the side of the head. But also, even though I kind of had an idea about what I wanted to do, I'm not taking anything for granted. I'm not assuming that he's going to, take it or not take it. So as soon as I went down, because he hit the leg, and as soon as I went down, his leg showed up. So I just took a shot at that. And of course, the reason his leg showed up is because he was accepting his defeat at that point. So, but it was an honor. It was great.
I thought it was an excellent display of being able to pick up on micro movements and even the slightest tells that both of you were able to pick up on, and just
Yeah,
knowing the leg was coming, accepting that the leg was coming, and being able to dial in on that was just beauty.
Yeah, and again, his body language told me the whole time, because if you look at it, his right hand really doesn't move at all. Everything he's doing is in that left hand, and so just everything just kind of told me he was going that direction. So I knew I had a pretty good idea about that's what he was doing.
The last point I'd like to make before we move on is one of the things that I talk to younger fighters at practice about all the time is the fight does not stop when you get legged. Right. That we are still on a live fire range, and it was an excellent showing of that. As you're falling, here's another target. He has not said the word good yet, so you keep firing.
Totally.
Great. Next up, we have His Highness Dietrich of Trimaris with his back to us, and Master Giacomo. I hope I'm saying that correctly.
I believe from Callantyr.
Very good. Trimaris. Dietrich is fighting with the east side, and Giacomo with the mid side, and this is a cut and thrust bout.
Yes. I was also personally appreciative of just how many current and former royals were actually on the fencing list this year for heroics. I thought that was really cool to see.
Before we get into the next bout, the thing I remember noticing as we were watching the fight was that it was much more cut in the cut and thrust than I am accustomed to seeing.
Yeah, Dietrich was definitely throwing some shots.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not sure he used that tip at all in that bout. It was cut, mostly cuts.
Yeah.
All right.
Lisabetta was muted.
Yeah, sorry, I was muted.
Okay.
I was going to say that it is great to show the diversity of skill that you can see in cut and thrust, that it's not just thrust that you come across, like you were saying, you observe most of the time. To be able to see this on display at Champions was very good for promoting it.
Was that the only cut and thrust bout of the Champions?
No, there were 3 that were coordinated in the dance.
Nice. Excellent.
And one of the interesting notes from this was when Trimaris agreed to fight with the East, knowing that their Majesties would not be in attendance, we were talking to His Highness, and he was offered his pick of what he wanted to do, and he said, "I want to cut and thrust spout." So it was great to see him out there on that list. So next up we have Doyen Richard Crow from the East. He is in the purple and gold on the right side of your screen. And His Highness David de la Cloud. My recollection is that His Highness is from Callantyr.
Yes.
That's correct.
All right. So now either Valhric or Arn, walk me through this matchup, please.
Sure. So Crow has been doing really well in the Eastern scene, semiing and finaling in our crowns. I've really been watching and paying attention to him, and I also knew that he's relatively unknown interkingdom-wise, and I trust his sword and shield, and I wanted to definitely give him a chance to a showcase because he's been doing really well here. And I knew that it would be a little bit of a puzzle because maybe Valhric wouldn't immediately recognize the name. So that's why I thought he was a good pick, and that's why he's out there.
Great.
I totally had no idea who this guy was.
I know.
He finaled in Crown against me this past Crown that I won, and is certainly no slouch. Won the first fight of our finals.
And if I will say, I think his biggest trouble here is that we don't have really much Madu fighting in the East, or especially aggressive A-range Madu fighting like His Highness was doing here. And so that definitely threw him. You can see him get legged there. Definitely threw him. And I think it ends pretty quickly after that. Yep, there it is.
Yep. And
But-
there's some of the geographical stuff that comes into play with that travel. Crow being up in I think central Maine.
Yeah.
So it's one of those 2 hours in one direction to find a practice, and then to find a Madu. Boy, do you
Yeah,
have
good luck.
to get in a car.
But no, yeah, that was, I think, a really good just let's see what happens matchup. Because I didn't know what His Highness Callantyr was going to bring or what his capabilities were, and vice versa. So, but no, I thought it was a bit rough and tumble for sure, especially for Crow. I could tell he was not used to that kind of pressure from someone without a shield, and that's what happens.
Having fought Crow a number of times, that is usually my approach to him: is pressure, 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 pressure. And well done by His Highness. I hear he's getting pretty good.
He does all right for himself.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah, without knowing exactly what Richard Crow was about, I was kind of hoping that he had a longer shield and that he would be right-handed, and I was hoping that with that longer shield that the Madu might be able to take advantage of the slow close, and I really didn't expect what I got out of David, but I was pleasantly surprised.
Awesome.
Agreed.
And His Highness is an unbelt, right?
He is.
Yeah.
He's
so
also one of the Amp Guard guys that came over with Sven.
I knew
Oh,
that.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So our next bout up is His Highness Alexander d'Avignon of
Insula Draconis.
Thank you so much. I could not come up with the name for Great Britain. And Maximilian de Zauberer. Looks like it's Master Maximilian.
That is
Yes.
correct. Twice over Pelican and Mod.
Well, the
Alexander's-
collar's helpful for identifying.
Yeah, Alexander's also a mod, a Pelican, and a Laurel.
Yep.
Yeah,
and a Tiger of the
done
East.
Okay. He's done a couple things.
Yeah.
But now of Drakenwald.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Max has been a staple on the Mid-Realms team for years. I believe he might be at 20 years at this point in time from the very beginning of having Rapier champions.
Wow. Mm-hmm.
Do you remember when we started that, Thomas?
No, he is definitely been in the stable a number of times. I mean, I fought him at Champs, I think at least once, maybe twice. But yeah, no, he has been at a very high level of prowess for quite a long time, and it has been awesome to see him still coming out and just kicking it.
Can we pause this a sec? Or go back to the very beginning, I guess. So there looks like there was some discussion here. I saw Alexander acknowledge a blow. Then there was some discussion. Do either of you recall what transpired here?
It looks
I
like
wasn't
it ended up-
100% sure. No, Alexander was telling him that it was not a double, because I think Max thought it might have been.
Because it looks like
And
they
were
set back up
confirming.
after this.
Yes, that was one of the doubles then. I remember the final part of it being
Okay.
maybe
Very good.
different. Oh, that
That one is very clear.
Right,
Yep.
uncontested.
Mhm.
All right.
This is Sigvalder from Kaid and Uhtred from Outlands.
Okay.
Sigvalder's in the
Sigvalder,
blue,
From
left-handed
Kaid.
Manu.
Yep.
and he's fighting for the east, and Uhtred from Outlands is fighting for the middle.
Outlands.
That's what I said. Uhtred
What?
from Outlands is fighting for the middle.
Oh, I
Sorry.
thought you said Atlantia. Sorry.
Maybe I
Can I
did. I meant Outlands. I accept that I am
From
fallible.
Outlandia.
Outlet. So this is a Madu versus a 2-weapon fight, and it was energetic.
I'd like to
Totally.
share something about how energetic it was actually. And
Fire away.
So basically, I got a chance to meet Sigvalder the Friday and Saturday prior, and he was the most energetic, happy, awesome guy I've met in a while. So
Yeah.
super happy to meet him. He goes to me. He goes, sir, whenever you get my pick, if you look at me and nod at me sternly, that means I go into berserker mode. I go, sir, what? Oh, and I didn't even question it. I said, sure, bud, you got it. So I looked at him, sternly nodded, and we got berserker mode for the crowd. And that's why I think he leapt at that gentleman to start the day, which was
Uhtred
very
being from the
intimidating.
Outlands is no stranger to Madu type weapons. So he
Sure.
so yeah, I think you got a really good matchup on that one.
Yeah, that was. I didn't know either of the folks watching it that day, and I've watched it since because it's just a fun fight. The Uhtred leaping from his knees with a thrust.
Yeah.
I mean, I couldn't manage that if I tried. Any other
My
thoughts?
niece screamed looking at it.
Yeah. Any other thoughts as we watch this End of the Pass again?
Nope, I'm
It's
good.
just an
Awesome
incredible fight.
I'm sorry, Valhric, I didn't hear what you said.
It was one of my favorite fights.
Yeah.
Well, I
really
can tell you,
good.
neither one of these guys knew anything about each other going into this, and after this, became fast friends.
Yeah. This is one of those fights that'll make you buddies.
Yeah, totally.
All right. So now we have Avenel Kella, I hope I'm saying that correctly, of Kaid versus Isaac Finn. I apologize, I don't know who is whom.
Isaac is in the blue and the, I'm sorry, not blue. I don't know where that came from. The green and the pink.
Isaac is the very interestingly colored one. All right.
And
So
what it's
Isaac
working
is fighting for the mid and Avenel for the east, though from
Yes,
Kaid.
he was one of the people we picked up at the meeting of the Crowns. Kind of a last-minute addition to the team.
And this looks like it's a cut and thrust bout from the elbow
Yep.
pads?
It is.
All right.
And yeah.
Can we roll that back for a second and watch that again? Because that has some interesting pieces to it.
Yeah, because it looks like he accepted a kill on a leg shot.
Yeah.
yes,
It does.
Is that a cut and thrust?
it had been a cut and thrust convention, and it might be something that they were still operating under. I didn't think it was part of the rules anymore, but
Huh.
that might have been something that they were willing to accept in champions. Do you
There
have
was
any
somebody
context
else-
on that, Thomas?
I don't actually. I missed that on day of. I know that somebody else got legged and
Yes,
took that as a loss.
conceded
later.
the fight. Mhm.
Yeah.
That happened in a rapier bout later on, just come. But yeah, just wanted to mention about Isaac. It was nice being able to field him on our team this year because he actually came from the Mid-Realm originally and then relocated for job purposes. So it's always great to see a friendly face.
And where is Isaac from now?
He's in North Shield.
Very good.
Okay.
All right. Any other thoughts on that before we move on? And I cannot pass up the opportunity to now say we have 1-2 princes here before you. So we have on the near side of the screen, we have Prince Skeggy Beersbane. I'm probably mispronouncing that, of Anstiora. And on the far side in white, we have Prince Ragnar Blackhammer of Atlantia. You will note as they set up that Ragnar's a lefty, so you have lefty on righty for this bout.
So Skeggy is the Prince of Vindheim, and is what,
Thank
and
you.
also the King's Champion of Anstiora. So he's who His Majesty Gabriel put forward when we made the ask, and I got to know him a little bit. It was he's a great guy. When Valhric put out Prince Ragnar, I went right up to Skeggy and said, "Hey, bud, this is a tough one. He's a lefty," and he smiled. He said, "Ooh, I like lefties." I go, "All right, pal." And okay, buddy. And I was so I knew, I didn't know, but I had a good feeling that Ragnar Blackhammer would be fielded by the mid, and it was let's just say I'm happy that His Highness Ragnar was able to get his win early in the day.
Valhric, any thoughts?
Usually I like to fight Atlanteans against Anstiorans. It was nice of Arn to oblige me. But at that point, I wanted to take the momentum back, and I felt like Ragnar was a solid choice, no matter what was sent. In retrospect, yeah, I think I would have liked to have saved him for later in the day. But if you had everything that you wanted, where would you put it all?
Fair enough.
I understand the move, though, of getting back the momentum 100%, though. Yeah, and it's one of those things where it makes sense either way. Either way, he got you a good strong win. It was a bit of a one-sided fight, but it was a good fight nonetheless, and it's all good. I'm glad that I gave you your Anstioran.
Fair enough. All right. On to the next bout. We have Scholar Aziza, who I believe is on the near side with her back to us, and Maeve Niemanen. I am almost certainly getting that mispronounced.
You got it pretty close.
All right. Having a former Kingdom Seneschal named Maeve and a house member helped a little. All right. So Maeve is from the mid?
Maeve is from... Oh, yes. Sorry.
Yes.
All right. So we have East versus mid straight up on this one.
Yeah. And Aziza actually has
first?
only... Oh, sorry.
Back that up just a hair, if you can, like 3 seconds. One of the things that jumped out at me watching this is the reduced armor experiment being in play here. So those familiar, can we pause this right here?
Yeah.
Those familiar with Rapier will notice that Aziza has her sleeves rolled up and no gloves. And I went, oh, that's interesting. I did not think that would happen in Heroic Champions. But the reduced armor experiment allows for, I think it's 2 areas to be unarmored.
Areas of exposed skin for the arms and legs, the reduced back of the head protection, and slightly less strict puncture resistance on the torso. It's the main goal is really avoiding heat injuries, and it's a really good way to dump heat from your hands if you're not trapping them in leather gloves, so I've heard.
All right. Now, before everybody runs out and does this, it's experiment. It's only some kingdoms, and you have to opt in and fill out paperwork every time before then. So talk to your Kingdom Rapier Marshal before you just decide, I'm going to roll up my sleeves and fence.
Thank you for the warning.
Well, Brennan said I could do this.
No, Brennan did not say that, Sean. Don't get me in trouble.
So I will say about Maeve, she's one of our up-and-comers. She is part of Wednesday Company, and Wednesday Company is one of the premier rapier households in the mid-realm. They tend to go out as a melee unit, but they also have some skilled tournament fighters as well.
All right, that was a fast fight, though. Let's back up and watch that one more time because I missed what was happening in all of our chat.
It's fair. Aziza is one of the people who I am super proud of. They've only really been fighting for about a year. They do not yet have a silver rapier, but they have been just coming out and killing themselves to get better, gain skill, and show that they had the stuff. And it's a hard angle to see it from, but it's one of those super dramatic off angle, like you can see her hand up there, but it's still landed center mass.
I see the finish across the body, yeah.
It was... So a bunch of us are super proud of Aziza for putting the work in over the time. It's been great.
Well, all right. I will say we now come to what was my favorite fight of the day. We have His Majesty Zipser of Atenvelt in yellow with his head cut off by Thomas's box facing us. And we have Jarl Ozer from the east in green with his back to us. Arn, can you talk, before we let the fight play, can you just talk about the setup for this?
Sure. So, unfortunately, Sir Douglas Henry, who is no stranger to the heroic list, was hurt during pickups, and Ozer was basically taken off of the melee and put onto my squad. And the asking that of someone in that kind of 11th hour is never easy. It's never something I want to do to someone, let alone someone that I love and consider a brother, like Ozer. And he was noticeably and visibly, working himself up towards this. It's something I know he's always wanted to be fielded for heroic champions, and now is his time. And damn it, was it really his time? Is what I'll say. And we'll let the very short fight speak for itself.
Valhric, any thoughts before we jump in and watch the fight?
I fought a lot with Zipser when I lived out in Edenvelt, and he was not fighting with Amadu at that time, and I kind of expected him to bring a different weapon style, but he can't really tell the king what he can do and what he can't do. But I really wish I could have.
Well, and I can tell you too that left-handed fights are a tough matchup for Madu fighters.
Mm-hmm.
Just for right-handed Madu fighters, it's just a tough matchup.
When I believe Valhric, you presented, yeah, that's right. You made the call for His Majesty Zipser, and I knew at that point that he was fighting Madu, and with Ozer's very aggressive lefty style, I felt very confident that it was the best matchup for that. So yeah, I understand the concern of lefty versus, power lefty versus Madu for sure.
Yeah, it was a brilliant choice.
Well, and His Majesty Miles makes a point. Zipser's won both of his crowns with Madu. Zipser was squired to Duke Bela, the Outlands. So he's been using that for a while, and he actually had a super cool crescent shaped shield at Pennsic that he was fighting with, which was totally badass. But yeah, he's won both his crowns with Madu. He's been fighting that for a while.
I will say before I knew what the matchup was, just Valhric, when you called out Zipser, I have such respect for his fight that I remember standing there thinking, all right, crap. And I put the hash mark in the mid column for this fight because he is He is great. And then Arn responded with Ozer, and I went, "Oh, okay, buddy."
Yeah.
All right, let's watch this unfold. There it was. A setup, like he almost showed the thrust. Zipser responds to it, and then there's a body wrap. And that is the fight, boys and girls. All right. We are jumping over now to Logos from the mid and Firebow from the east. Logos is a knight and a master of defense. Brendan Firebow, excuse me. Having known him since before either of us were in the society, I cheated the nickname. And Brendan Firebow is a master of defense. And here we go. Anything? Logos is in gray on the near side of the screen, and Firebow is in green on the far side. Anything we should know watching this bout?
Both of them are strict adherents to the style of Salvatore Fabris. The
butt sticky outy form.
Butt sticky outy form is where I was going, as you might know it by. Both of them are also members of the company of St. Jude, do a lot of really cool late period garb stuff, and have known each other for quite some time. So I think this was something they were both really looking forward to.
And this is a single versus single?
Yep.
Single sword.
Yes.
Single sword versus single sword.
And of all the pairings this day, this was the one that I absolutely wanted to see happen. Logos has plans to ultimately leave the Middle Kingdom, so he's not going to have many opportunities in the future to participate in something like this. So I wanted to make it fun for both people, and I believe it was.
I think single sword and rapier is grossly underrated. I think it's something that we just don't see enough of. I think you get the sword and dagger or the case of swords, and I think it's kind of created this arms race where you have to have something else. I think there's an elegance to the just single sword that I think people just don't appreciate.
Yeah, our Lisabetta and I both come from sort of the same camp of the mid that is very highly emphasized in making sure your single sword game is good.
Absolutely.
So that bit of culture for us and some other people, even though I'm known for primarily fighting longsword, I also enjoy reminding people that single sword is
I believe we're all that way. We play something different, but we have some major skills in single. I do sword and buckler.
Yeah.
I missed the outcome there in the pass.
I think on that one, Logos took it. Yeah.
With a body thrust.
Thrust.
Yep.
Well, and I like that there was an exchange right before that too, where they had both gotten bound up.
Oh yeah, no, like they both get hands on blades and move them out of the way and are just.
Well, and I just love the way that they recognized it, agreed that that right there. They see it. I don't think it was intentional on anybody's part. They recognize it. They agreed that we should separate, and they do, so that you can. Yeah, I mean, it's that nod, right? It's the same
thing you were talking about earlier with this is a showcase and let's put on a show, and you can saw somebody in that moment, or you can separate and have a great bout
and give the populace the show they deserve to see.
Absolutely.
And I chatted with Firebow after this fight, and that particular moment was something that was memorable for him.
Good.
Yeah. And before we jump past this fight, shout out to the YouTuber Renegade Paladin. We stole the video we used the video from him for this bout. Great. And now we have our our next bout up, which is Master Carl Mirstapa from the East. He's in. Carl does in fact will it.
Sorry.
Carl is in black with his back to us, and we have the King's Champion of Atlantia, Sir Fergus, in green in the far side of the field.
Fergus can't be that good. He comes from the West. Love you, Fergus.
All right, then. Now that we have our smack talk out of the way.
So Fergus is definitely my weirdo.
He is definitely your weirdo. I think he would lay claim to that for sure.
Yeah, I think.
I did some fighting with Carl, and I know Fergus's thrust game, and I felt like it was a good opportunity for him.
So Carl was the question and Fergus the answer in this one?
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay. So knowing Carl, I camped with him for decades now. He's a member of my household. This was a moment he has really worked for a while, being able to be on this stage. Just speaking for myself for a moment, this is a moment that can overwhelm you. And the fact that he took that blow just so cleanly made me really proud. It's super easy to, when you've worked as hard as he has, jump the gun and just go, no, I'd like to be hit harder. I see Fergus in the chat, so let's all call him a weirdo together.
Hey, Brennan,
Arn,
can you hear me?
I sure can, buddy.
Phenomenal job.
Yeah.
I was super proud of him. And
Yeah, so I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Arn.
So basically, you hit it on the head. I mean, in regard to work ethic, and I mean, Carl came to me the day after the Pennsic prior Heroic Champions and was very clear. He's like, I want to earn a spot on this squad. I go, all right, let's get to work. And boy, did he travel, and boy, did he work hard. And I was proud to call that man on his birthday and tell him that he had made it. And he knew, no matter what, win or lose, that he was supposed to be there, and I wouldn't have made a different choice. He took a shot, and it's time to, and it was time to fall down. That's how our game works.
Yep. And you and I, Arn, have talked many times about that's a hard take, but
It's a hard take.
But that was a great fight, and Fergus is a badass weirdo and stalked him down and just picked the moment to roll that wrist over and put Carl down. Well done. Well done, Mr. Fergus. All right. So moving on, we have another rapier bout up next. We have, Warder Raphael de Marici. He is from the mid, I assume.
Yep.
And
this fight
Matt, hold on once. Can we pause this 1 sec? And we have Raphael is on the far side of the screen, and on the near side we have Master Bobby Tights of the East.
And this fight is also cut and thrust, but it's cut and thrust with grappling as well, so they are in fact allowed to wrestle.
Good lordy lower.
Yeah, we're bringing all the experiments to heroics this year.
Speaking of Fergus, I mean, I think Fergus would have enjoyed some of that grappling action going on in this.
Well, we have a new SEM elect, and maybe we'll get grappling rules in for Armored, and all right, let's roll that beautiful bean footage.
Raphael is our newest vigilant for the Master of Defense.
Oh, fantastic.
All right.
Do we put this in slow-mo, or are we having some streaming problems?
Let's see if we can't back that up and try it again. And see what we get. Yeah, it looks like this just may be a YouTube relic of this fight. So we've got the wrestle going, and Bobby looks like a slip lands on his back, and now it looks like YouTube is back up to speed, or the camera's back up to speed. So he's fencing from his back.
Yep. And then got bopped on the head.
Yeah. All right. Anything? So the wrestling was really interesting to see. I remember the Heralds did a good job of telling us that was coming. So when Bobby gets thrown to the ground, there was not a collective.
I'm glad they communicated that, and this is probably one of the most active grappling bouts that I've seen so far.
Oh no! Bobby had one of his hands taken from him before it got in real close. It could have gotten ridiculous.
All right. Next up, we have His Highness Timothy. My recollection is of Meridies. With the shield on the far side, and His Grace Maynard of Ethelmark with the polearm on the near side. And I had never seen His Highness fight before this bout. But Lord knows we've seen His Grace in a few of these heroic champions over the years. Valhric, yeah, just a couple. Valhric, Arn, any thoughts before we jump in?
Boy, I sure wish that Maynard was on my side.
Man, I'm so happy that Maynard was on my side.
Everybody should have a Maynard. It is.
We should all be so lucky.
Right, it is one of the greatest cards to have to play in this game of Pokemon. Is a Maynard.
It's true. Maynard was one of the people that I immediately thought of when Ethelmark, when we were speaking with Ethelmark about open spots and such. And I know his fighting very well, and he's a man that I know, knows this pressure, knows this part of the game like no other. I trust him obviously against other great weapons, and I trust him against almost anybody in their main form. And I saw a very tall guy with a whole lot of target that has almost assuredly never seen what Maynard can do, and I thought that was a good place for Maynard to be.
Cool. Very good. All right, let's jump into this fight. So Maynard does this great combination of things always, where he shows thrusts
Nice.
and
That was beautiful.
Yeah, let's back up to and controls the range while firing, backing up, and then
he's got that tap to the leg, and then just rolls that right back up into the head.
Yep. 1, 2, bang, bang.
Yeah.
And that's the beautiful ball game, kids.
Yeah.
All right. So for our next fight, again, we have some reduced armor experiment happening. On the near side, we have Master Donovan Shinnock of the East, and Oblit Trapon of the Mid. Trap is in red, and Donovan is in, I will call it the natural shirt on the right side of the screen in the foreground. Let's go ahead and roll it.
And no, YouTube didn't pause. Donovan just poses like that sometimes.
I tried to encourage the folks on our team no posing this year.
On that one, there was some quick exchange, and Trap actually was able to tap Donovan right center mass, but I think it was kind of an obscured view, and
Great. All right. So the next bout we have His Highness Gareth of Ethelmark in the near in red, and Duke Ronvalder in predominantly white on the far end. Any thoughts before we jump into this, gents?
Who put out the first fight on this? Valhric, did you send out?
I believe I sent out Prince Gareth.
And then Val, you matched him with Ronvalder.
I did.
What was your calculus there?
I had seen His Highness fight. I knew he was a very, very strong, very, very deliberate opponent, and I felt
also
left-handed, but I felt that that Rongvalder was going to be an excellent answer for that, and not be intimidated by the kind of power and force that I've seen His Highness bring to the field. So I definitely wanted a fighter who was going to be able to stand to that.
Nice.
And with all respect to His Highness, there's maybe a handful of people in the known world that Ronvalder is not an answer to.
There's that.
All right, let's check this fight out. I love the way Ronvalder creates pressure with his feet. It's just beautiful. Creates range, then steps in to create pressure, then creates range, then steps in to create pressure.
Well, something we've talked about on the show before too is that Ronvalder and Branos do a lot of probing with their hand. They do that quick that hand flick, where I do that same kind of probing with my feet, where I'll take a step into range and see how somebody responds. But you get into range with those guys and they give you that right there, that quick little flick, and how you respond to that flick is going to determine basically how you're going to get hit.
And I believe I said this last year, but I'll say it again, that we still want Ronvalder on the rapier side, but obviously he has a place to go.
No, yeah. That was a great call on Val's part for sure with what he described. Because we know that Gareth can bring, and meeting that power with the grace and technicality of Ronvalder was clutch.
All right. So we have next up we have Master Llewellyn Walsh in purple versus Cataldo from Atlantia in blue and white.
This is also a cut and thrust fight.
Very good.
It wasn't one of the ones that was forced to be cut and thrust. This was just, I think, one of the ones that both of them wanted that.
Yes, Cataldo very much wanted a cut and thrust fight. I offered their either standard rapier or cut and thrust, and he was very encouraged by cut and thrust.
Mm-hmm. This year was the year of fencers with requests.
It really was. Well, it was a good year for it.
Llewellyn, a man of many talents, is also my thrown weapons champion. Because why not excel in so many things?
I mean, like the Pokemon, collect the whole set, right?
Yeah.
He's also a damn good knife maker.
We seem to be having some YouTube lag. Fortunately, not a lot was really missed in that frame-by-frame moment. So we have a sword and buckler versus case fight.
Yes.
Llewellyn manages to take an arm, and so now it's sword and buckler versus single. And we get the bind and the infight, and looks like a cut. And we'll chat about it. And we'll do it some more. And all right, so in that exchange, we have a cut to Llewellyn's sword arm, so he gives up the buckler and moves arms, and we have a cut to Cataldo's leg. It appeared. And now we move from the cut to the thrust portion of the program.
Right.
And that's the
Llewellyn
ballgame,
buried
kids.
one center mass, but it was from the wrong angle, so you couldn't see it.
Yeah, there's a nice little rollout to come around center line and back in.
Yep.
And we have Sir Monarchy of Eldemir in the black on the far side of the screen for this fight, and Sir Yanovich Bogdansky, because it's fun to say, from the east in the blue and yellow on the near side.
Whenever Jan's name is called, I always get excited. He's just an incredible fighter, and I love to see him in the champions. He's like my my secret hero.
Jan is a guy that I fought my whole life, and he just is fundamentally sound at everything in this game, and it's great seeing him out there, particularly the last few years. Like, he's gotten better as he's gotten older.
When I was his squire, he would talk about how his goal and his show and it was being fielded here one day, and being able to help facilitate that has been one of my greatest honors. And he's someone that I can trust to put down most folks with just some of the best fundamentals the East has to offer. And with this matchup, I had no clue who you were going to field from Eldemir, because I was trying to peek along the sidelines who had their armor on that I recognized, etc., and I didn't have anything. And when I saw you go over to this gentleman with a polearm. I'm like, well, that's got Jan written on it because Jan practices weekly with Sir Cullen, and he's got polearm reps for days. So that's why I was quick to just throw him in there and get done what I know that he can get done.
From the comments, it looks like I mispronounced Manic.
Yeah, Manic. I met Manic this winter. He came to a event that happens in the middle called the Schwitz, and he was just on fire with that polearm. So I was excited to have him and to see what he would do in the big game.
He's apparently the 2-year running winner of Tarl's Little Polearm Tournament.
Oh, cool.
All right, let's watch this bout. Jan just closes so well. All right, can we back this up a second? As we watched Jan close, like my recollection is that it went leg cut, head cut, and that combo is from Jan is just really great.
Yeah, from what I recall, he got the leg, and then pretty much before Jan was able to bring down the headshot, the Knight from Elden called it, essentially.
Manic.
Yeah.
Yep, there's the leg cut, and looks like he's just taking the clear coming blow. All right, we're switching up some of this to hopefully get better video plays.
Yep, and you see Jan hold up that last strike that was coming down.
Yep, and well done by both to just know sometimes the moment is done. All right, so here we have Sir Ustad the Dreaded in white on the far side of the screen, and Donya Yin Jin Yu. I hope I'm saying that correct. From the east in red on the near side of the screen.
And this will also be a cut and thrust fight.
Yep.
My recollection is Ustad's fights usually are.
That is correct. This is his second year being on the team.
Last year he fought Donovan in a CNT fight.
And I would say of the people on the team, Ustad has the most heart. He is willing to give the extra mile for the team and supporting the crown.
I think in much the same way that Valhric said that Jan was one of his secret heroes, Ustad's one of mine.
Oh.
It's a nice block with the handle there. So this is longsword versus
Case.
Case? Okay.
Now single though.
Well, you know, that happens to us all. That was a really nice rollover on the step in. Any final notes on that? Yeah, look at that. That's pretty. That's pretty by Ustad.
It's my expectation he's just going to keep getting better and better because this is something that he's really dedicating himself to.
All right. So our next fight up is the
Baron Cormac.
Baron Cormac of Trimaris in the blue with the white triscale. And we have Warder Isaac. I don't know Isaac's kingdom in the black. All right, let's take a look at what happens here. No, I'm gonna guess North Shield from the shield.
Oh yeah, definitely North Shield. I'm sorry, I was slow on that. I didn't realize I was muted.
Cormac,
and he's watching in the comments.
Cormac is originally from Ethelmark. I've known him. He used to come to Nutley with Duke Tim a few times a year. And when I reached out to His Highness Trimaris for an belt specifically, he was quick to put up Cormac. I believe he semifinaled in the crown that Dietrich won, and was very happy to have him and see him perform.
Apparently that's the other Cormac.
Oh, okay. And we have, judging from the comments, the gentleman from North Shield is Frug. I'm probably mispronouncing that, but there we go.
Frug is probably closer than Frug.
All right. Our next bout up is Duchess Kayla of Eldermere versus she's in pink, and Countess Indrakshi of the East in blue. Any thoughts, Thomas, Lisabetta, as we watch this?
This one.
Go ahead.
Oh no, this was 100% a pink sparkle goth versus like OG black and like, well, you've met Indrakshi goth. So the two of them, it was too good to pass up.
In my context, was that Duchess Kayla also is a Master of Arms and a mod.
Yes.
So we have two sword versus sword and buckler here.
Mm-hmm.
We are trying to figure out the stream quality. Sorry, folks who are seeing it get choppy. This fight was a lot about range control. Indrakshi is my lady's dependent, so I'm super familiar with her fighting. And this was all about who controls the distance between the two combatants, and you will see that Kayla steps in, and then Indrakshi will retreat, and it's who controls that little exchange. And then at the end, my recollection is that Kayla lands a solid center mass shot.
Yep. I was going to say, from this camera angle, it's probably not going to be visible even if we had the stream at 100%.
All right. Let's see. So we have for our next fight, Burgos of Border Watch. Hi, buddy. Sorry, dog just came over. Burgos of Border Watch and Steiner from Atlantia. Burgos, as I recall, is the gentleman with his back to us, and Steiner is the one we cannot see, though I may have that backwards.
Nope, you're correct.
You're correct. Yep.
All right. Let's see what this fight has for us.
I got to see Steiner fight at Three Dog Practice and a couple of my trips to Atlantia, so I was excited to have him as an unbelt, and
He's very
really proud of him.
He's very talented. I was introduced to Burgos by His Majesty Ethelmark. I didn't know anything of his fighting, but I was really happy to see such a large guy, have such good hand speed, good angles. I liked his defense. You know, this was a good matchup.
Um,
There's a leg. What it was.
all right.
Burgos really looked like he still had a tremendous amount of power and ability to move his opponent even on his knees.
For sure.
Yeah, he is. He is a big, strong fella. I'll ask everyone to bear with us real quickly. We're going to try and reload the browser that we're streaming off of to give us some better video quality. And this is a fine opportunity to say thank you to Sir Sivrid for producing this evening and all the work he's doing to make this work. Let's see. Do we have Sean? Do you happen to know, because I am a terrible host, what's coming up next week on Coach's Corner?
So next week we've got Pennsic 50 review for melee battles. Awesome. I think Barry was going to be involved in that one. I think we've got His Highness David from Calatier was going to be helping us out, kind of giving his perspective on some of that. We have a couple other guests that were involved in that. So as far as I recall, that's what we're doing next week is the melee review.
All right. And it looks like our video is back. So our next bout is Marechal Remy on the near side of the screen from the east, and it's Grace Edmund from the mid. When you see the two of them, Remy is the human-sized one, and Edmund is the wicked tall one.
Yeah, but like any opportunity to make Remy try and do wind sprints to get into Edmund's range, we also could not pass up.
Sure. I believe again you will see the reduced armor experiment happening here.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're going to wear velveteen pants, you should probably roll up your sleeves.
Right.
Agreed.
It's good advice.
And here we can clearly see that Edmund would be in range from all the way back at Curry Road, which you can see in the background there.
These two also, I might add, are fighting single sword against each other.
Nice. Yeah.
Like it.
No, I thought these two put on an excellent show.
Yeah, these are two really incredible combatants. Both of them doing what they do very well, and it's just a fun fight to watch because of they're both near the top of their game, and it's one of those styles make fights matchups.
And I love how fluid they are in communicating with each other. They're able to gesture and indicate to each other that they're okay to continue on. It's very important in a fight.
Mm-hmm.
The fight for the center line, the control of each other's blades, and then I don't like that. I am out of here by Remy.
Yep. He can book it going backwards. It's crazy.
And then it looks like there may have been a belly cut that's being discussed.
Yeah, this might be one of those things too. I wasn't sure about what the actual discussion was, but my My guess might have been that it was closer to like, was that a tip cut or an actual draw cut? And the mid doesn't do tip cuts like the East does because conventions be what they are.
Yeah,
So
it
nobody
looked
wanted to miss anything, so I think they'd rather talk it out and make sure.
very good. It did look sort of tip cut to me, my relatively amateur eye, but
Wasn't it for a draw cut? You have to have like 4 inches of draw or something like that.
yeah. The question here is what part of the sword was used for the cut.
Right.
I think. And so now we get to see the clear disparity in size when they're both legged.
In range.
Yes.
Wingspan.
So they will measure, and set up in measure for both. And countdown 3, 2, 1, go.
And then
Remy lands a blow.
Yep.
Winning the pass. All right. Next we have yep, looks like a belly shot or maybe a chest shot. Next we have His Grace Master Ionis in black with his back to us, and Duke Kalen MacLeod of Glenavon. I hope I am saying that correctly. Kalen is on the far side of your screen.
So typically with Ionis, he's always a answer to a question. We were only about 3 fighters left at this point, maybe 4. And I go to him and I say, hey, man, I'm breaking protocol and I'm throwing you out because I can kind of see who's left on their end and I need to draw someone of them. I need to draw someone out from them. And he didn't love it, but I said, this is what we're doing. And he was like, all right, boss, let's go. And so I didn't know anything about the Duke from Glenavon. And I don't think the Duke from Glenavon knew much about Ionis. And
sorry.
I think that my way of drawing someone out was fairly successful.
Fair enough. Is this who you were trying to draw out?
Not necessarily. I wanted to see who was left because I still had some questions in the back of my mind of who was left. But a Duke for a Duke is totally fine.
Fair enough. Valhric, any thoughts before we jump in?
This gentleman indicated that he was ready for a lefty, and he's a Duke. So I thought that maybe just the fact that the two had never seen each other before would maybe play in my favor, and I think he gave a really, really excellent fight. But again, Ionis is an answer or a question, however he's put out.
Indeed.
Well put.
Such a pretty shield.
It is. Yeah, His Grace from Glenavon really did keep a good account of himself for sure. And that was, yep.
I have been on the receiving end of that blow many times. It's not fun.
Exceedingly
And the offside that Ionis drops better than most everyone. All right. Now we have Warder Lazaro de Toledo from the mid.
Lazaro. He's my cadet brother.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry about the mispronunciation. And we have Don Simone Nichols from On Tier. Simone is in the white with his back to us, and Lazaro is in the black facing us. That looks like a longsword versus sword and dagger.
That's
Yep.
correct.
I think it's funny that even though he's my cadet brother, he does not fight longsword anything like what I fight longsword with. It's
Absolutely not.
Yeah, it strikes me almost like a spear the way he's using it.
he is also a rattan crossover.
And this is the fight that we had alluded to earlier, where the leg was taken and the bout was conceded.
Very good. Next, we have Aaron the Swift in the foreground in the purple and gold. And I'm going to hopefully get this right. Hadamar in the red in the background. Does anybody remember where Hadamar's from?
Hadamar's from the middle.
Great.
Before we run the video, if I could say a couple things about this matchup in particular. So I do a lot, as most of us know, I do a lot of film research and tracking who's doing well at tournaments. And I had it, in the Candlemas videos from this past Candlemas, there were obviously some mid-realm standouts and Hadamar was definitely someone that I had sent videos to Aaron about, saying, hey, I'm not sure about this guy. I'm not sure where he's from. And as much as you prep your Eastern Unbelt for all possibilities, this was the best matchup against Aaron that there could have been. It really was. And it was just a great fight. It really was.
It was a super fight. I was really excited to be able to field Hadamar. He and I have become friends over the last year, and his prowess kind of speaks for himself. But man, Aaron is no slouch. He is definitely a top-notch unbelted fighter, and this was bar none my favorite fight.
For sure. And he's a transplant from, he's been in the East for over about a year and a half now. Transplant from Ethelmark. We are beyond happy to have him. I got a chance to work with him a ton this year, and I just look forward to seeing what he puts out in the future. Same with Hadamar.
Yep.
Yeah,
All right,
I don't think Aaron will be fighting as an unbelt in that tournament.
Well, he is a second generation Scadian and is doing quite well for his own and his parents' word fame.
What I was so proud to see was how Aaron was able to adjust, test, to really pick up those probing shots that Hadamar is putting up, to really make sure that his face was protected, even with his shield positioning was brilliant for 99% of the match. It was brilliant.
Hadamar did most of his career in Antsiora, and he's also an amp guard.
Yep, I got a chance to talk to him a bunch during the Rose tournament. We got to meet each other, and he's a swell guy. But there's so many good exchanges in this fight where they just are able to flip out. They're able to keep it moving. Hadamar keeps that pressure with that butt spike just really, really well, and Aaron just able to maintain, but never really able to set and really tee off.
Aaron does a great job of fading out of shots and coming back into the range he wants. And Hadamar just really does an excellent job with that bottom spike of saying, nope, get out.
There's almost constant pressure from both ends, and they had to keep moving at all times, and shifting their body weight is just really such a good contest.
This does not look like an unbelts fight.
No. Like that pickup right there was just.
Mm-hmm.
There it is. Yep.
There it is.
He,
Yep.
he
Nice
prepped it up a little bit, and yep, brilliant.
Yeah. Great bout. All right. Our next fight up is let's see. I'm gonna try real hard on this one. Borovanshi from the Outlands and Donya Thora from the East, who I believe is in the yellow pants in the near ground.
Yep.
Borvanshi also formerly lived in the Middle Kingdom, so again, another transplant that gets to play with us as an ally.
You know, you guys just when we think they're out, you pulled them back in. All right. This is case versus case.
Yep, and
Sorry.
he got a pull, I think, across the torso and neck.
Yeah.
Right there, which is when she stopped and slowed her momentum.
All right. The next bout we have His Highness then, now Majesty Miles of the West in black with his back to us, and Duke Conrad of North Shield in white facing us. As we roll this, any thoughts, gentlemen?
Miles is a legend. His form and the way that he approaches like that with that kind of pressure, that just ballistic pressure, is just exactly what I was looking for.
Just snuck one under Conrad's shield there. And then jumps right in to control the range there. Odd little note, Conrad has a butt spike on his broadsword.
He does.
Which is just so... every time I notice it, it's just odd to watch.
Hell of a shot.
Yeah. Knock Conrad right over. And that's the bout. Any thoughts before we are on to the next, Valhric or Arn?
Just overwhelming, really, at that point. I mean, I know that Miles was sitting outside, getting real tired, real hungry, and he told me
he was so hungry.
So hungry.
Not like I want to win this fight, but I want to.
I need a sandwich.
I need a sandwich so bad.
Yeah.
I think in retrospect, if I had it to do over again, I would have fought Miles. I think that would have been a better matchup and a better choice. But
so you would have gone you versus Miles and Conrad versus Arn? Then?
Yeah, that would have been my play.
Okay.
If I could do it again.
Well, I think it was great that you and Arn, both being the captains of those sides, ended up with the last fight of the day. I think that was brilliant.
Sure, it's the fight that people wanted for sure, but I 100% understand Valhric's thoughts on what he did.
Yeah, I mean you got to play the matchups, right?
For sure.
All right. Our next bout is Katarina, Falconer de Lanark in the black pants, and I'm going to call that purple doublet with her back to us. And we have Titus Sharper in the black and red facing us. I'm guessing this is Sword and Dagger from Katarina, and looks like Case from Titus?
No, Sword and Dagger.
Okay, my apologies. That's me looking at stuff and misreading it.
Yes, Titus is my provost, and he wouldn't use case for a fight like this.
Fair enough.
And Kate's my deputy, so like I was super proud of her for her showing. And that was
Double kill.
Both just went right at the same time and fired a shot off.
Yeah, it looks like they both seeded the center line defense for the center line offense.
Mm-hmm.
So this is basically a proxy matchup between the heads of the two sides there, right?
It is. It worked out perfectly.
Yeah, a little bit.
I'm just going to leave this here so you know that shot was good, is what I'm reading.
I think so.
Take all the time you need.
I'll just leave this dagger
one of them was
in your
like,
deck.
I think one of them was actually bound up like in a shirt or something, like funky, but easier to redo.
All right, so we'll fight it a third time?
Third time.
Mm-hmm.
Third time's the charm.
All right.
And
There
that
we
time
go.
it was a sinner.
All right.
Titus. Mm-hmm.
And now for our final fight of the day, gentlemen. We have and ladies, Arn, you're on mute before you. So unmute before you talk. We have our armored captains, Duke Valhric versus Sir Arn, the fight that everybody wanted to see, as Sean put it.
Now this is it's going to be about 4.5 minutes. It's about 3/4 of a dance battle. Just so if we don't remember, so I apologize.
So let's just not pause this. Let's just keep it rolling. This was one of the great fights where when you know what you're watching, there's so much fight happening without the swords moving.
Totally.
So the control of pressure and probing and the little feints that generate a response is really great. These are two champions of our craft testing each other.
For sure.
Valhric and I have only had one proper pass prior to this at the Candlemas when I was an unbelt, 2018.
That was way too long ago for that to count.
Correct, but that's what I'm saying.
Right.
Now,
yeah.
Obviously, we know each other from film, from watching each other in person, and just really trying to make sure I don't get swarmed. I'm trying to keep. If you look, I'm keeping my elbow as protected, my sword elbow as protected as I possibly can, and just trying to draw, like Brennan said, draw a response, an overextension, something.
Yeah, and I think that also kind of goes to something we talk about a lot here, in that one of the things you get from the heroic champions is, one of the truest tests of what your skill is unknown skill versus unknown skill. Being able to just get thrown out there against somebody that you don't know anything about. Maybe you've seen them, but for you to like come in against a total stranger and you know nothing about their fight at all, you don't have a chance to Rolodex them. You don't have a chance to say, I've seen this guy fight in a dozen crowns and they can do this, is what they like to do. Like, your fight just has to be good enough.
Yep.
And it has to be able to be good enough to compete on the known world stage. And win, lose, or draw, it's like you need to be able to put up a fight that is competitive. And if you want to know how good you are, one of the best ways to test it is absolutely just unknown skill versus unknown skill.
Here's where I started showing a lot of point, trying to see if that would draw a response, which it did. And this was the shot that the marshals were involved in regard to where the actual point landed.
I think you had shield on it, right?
Yeah, your point landed on the top of my shield and then was deflected up high onto my my faux hinge of my nasal, and then basically, if you want to pause it real quick.
No, just please leave it running.
Oh, okay, no problem.
We're well over time, so we're just gonna power through.
Fair enough.
Now, talk to me, Valhric. Did I miss a leg? Oh no. Okay.
Nope. I fell.
Okay. I have tripped in a champions in a heroic fight before. So the nice thing is you didn't get stabbed in the face when you did it. That's the interesting corridor in that righty lefty exchange is this 45.
Now here I almost got the body, but he voided right out of it. I saw it open up as I threw that rap to try sword arm.
Boy, I don't wear any body armor, and I was so glad you didn't hit me in that wall.
And there's the kill in that 45 I was talking about.
Yeah.
In the interest of time, we're just going to keep rolling right on. We have Don Santiago from Anstiora and Baron Oleg Balban from the mid. And I don't know which is which. I apologize. I assume Oleg is in the white.
Yeah, white and red.
That's correct.
Okay. As Sean's dog weighs in for a minute.
Yep.
We have Santiago pushing the range forward. Any thoughts on this bout?
I thought they were doing a pretty good job of trying to figure out where each other's range actually is, because both of them are kind of deceptive with their like lunges and full arm extensions. Ulig is tall, and I think Santiago had a slightly longer sword than Ulig was expecting at first, which is why you'll see a lot of those like sort of moving forward and they're throwing shots, but none of them are really like connecting because they're still trying to dial it in.
Just a quick note for our viewers that we are down to the last couple of bouts. There's two more after this. Just pause this for 1 second, Sivrid. I apologize. We have two more fights. I know we're running super long. I want to thank everybody for sticking with us. I especially want to thank in this moment Valhric and Arn for walking us through the armored stuff. As the last two are rapier, so we're mostly going to be leaning on Thomas and Lisabetta for here on out. All right. This fight is Marcus of Ethelmark in the all black, I believe, versus Warder Michelangelo in the white and green on the far side of our screen. All right,
Correct.
Go ahead and roll that.
And this is when the transplants worked against us. Marcus was also in the bedroom in the past.
I thought so.
And that was a pause 1 second. And that was a win for Michelangelo, correct?
Yes.
Correct.
All right. And then for our final fight of the evening, I want to give a big shout out because I know she's watching to Donya Miran on the near side of the screen for waiting through the whole show. And we have Master Ishmael in the white and green on the far side of the screen. And let's go ahead and roll this bout.
And Ishmael was my surprise member of the team.
This is Sword and Dagger versus Sword and Buckler.
I think
Alright.
so, yes. I actually didn't know where Ishmael was from before this fight started.
Nice pickup there.
And for us, it was fortunate and unfortunate, we did have an injury that took one of the intended players out. So we had a spot available.
And
that was
that sort of walking lunge ends our evening with we have Ishmael over Murin. So I want to quickly thank all of our guests for joining us this evening. I know this was a longer evening than we had intended, but 35 fights is no laughing matter. And y'all shared a lot of insight in the process and made it really interesting for folks. It was great having 3 of the actual combatants on the show. It's always really interesting for me to hear what y'all are thinking as we're breaking down your fights. I know it was interesting for folks to get to watch our insights on their bouts or the bouts that they got to watch, and behind the scenes is always great. So thank you all for your evening. Anybody have anything they want to share with the class before we call it an evening?
Go ahead, Val.
I just wanted to say the total amount of respect that I had for Arn. That was one of the most trying fights and testing fights that I've had in years, and he really inspires me. He was an excellent opponent, and if I couldn't win, I'm real happy he did.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
And that was the thing I was going to say is like all these fights, you know, win or lose, this was really good fighting on both fields, both Rapier and the rattan. And, you know, somebody's got to win, somebody's got to lose. But I think the fight that we saw in every one of these bouts was, you know, the quick ones and the long ones. You know, there was a lot of fight going on, and I think it was a great display of what the best of our sport really can be. So kudos to everybody that took part in it, and my thanks to those who had been in these fights who were commenting in the comment section as well. Thanks for tuning in and giving us your quick thoughts there too.
So this is the second year in a row with this class of guests, and I appreciate you doing it with us once again. And we will apparently have a somewhat new crew when we do this time in 2024. So those of you who won't be with us, please enjoy retirement and your next challenge. And for everyone watching, thank you for sharing your Wednesday evening with us. Again, next week we have a Pennsic Melee review coming out for you, and we hope you'll join us for that. And thank you, and good night, Internet.
Good night.
All right, good night, everybody.